Hello, I'm going to be talking to you today about making an application to a UK university and specifically the ins and outs of writing a personal statement. My name is Elizabeth Mantulis. I'm an undergraduate admissions manager at King's College London, and my team actually reads all the applications for the Arts and Sciences programs, English Language Centre and Study Abroad here at King's College London. You may have noticed I may have an American, North American accent, and in fact I am an American. I have been living and working here in the UK after attending a master's degree and some study abroad for, 8-9 years now. In addition, I did my IB diploma and AP tests and SATs. I grew up in North Carolina in the States, and then I attended Bryn Mawr College outside of Philadelphia. So I've got a bit of knowledge about both sides of the university admissions process. So hopefully I can bring that to the discussion about how to make a UK application for university. So in terms of applying to university, the timeline is really similar to applying to university anywhere else in the world for UK universities. So around your junior year, year 11, you want to start your research and planning. That's pretty normal. And then you're going to start your application and writing your personal statement, which is the bulk of a UK application in your summer or going into basically your senior year of high school. So round about nowish if you're already a senior. Most of our deadlines for UCAS applications are going to be either the 15th of October if you're planning to apply for something like medicine or dentistry, or indeed Oxford or Cambridge is one of your choices. Otherwise, your UK application through UCAS, which is we'll get on to what that is, should come to us by the 15th of January. That's our on-time consideration deadline. So that's really the deadline you need to remember is 15th of January. Then round about January through to April, you'll receive some of your offers. Could be earlier. We usually make our offers on a rolling basis when we receive those applications in. You choose your choices. We'll get into how that works and firm and insurance through UCAS. And then once you receive your results, whether you're taking SATs or advanced placement or IB, you'll receive those results in the summer after you graduate high school. Send those into your admissions office and we can make your final decision on your application. And then it's off to university around about September time, which is where we are now. So the basics are pretty much most of the applications that come through for UK universities are through a service called UCAS. This is in many ways a service that collects all the application information and sends it to universities, but it's centralized here in the UK. So you have your standard information that you need to provide, like personal details, education, reference, and personal statement. One difference about the UCAS system than I think any other system in the world for applying to universities is that you are limited to 5 program choices across all the various programs in universities here in the UK. So it's really just this one centralized service that you have to use to make all of your choices for university applications. Now, what's interesting is that we require through UCAS, through this application form, even though you're applying to 5 different programs, which could be different, one personal statement that will apply to all of them to show your academic interest. Now, this one personal statement through UCAS is limited to 4,000 characters, and it's characters, so round about 3 to 4 paragraphs is what we usually tell students the type of size you're looking for. And really, this is how we designate those students who shine, who should gain a place on the course, an offer. And it could be your only chance to tell whichever university you're applying to why you're interested in the subject. And that's why it's such an important part of the UCAS application form. The rest of the details about your education, your name, your date of birth are pretty standard. So the personal statement is really where students can show what they're all about. So obviously, if you're applying for 5 different programs, whether they're at the same university or 5 different universities, there is a challenge about making the one personal statement fit all of those different choices. But in most cases, you are only given this one opportunity to write a personal statement, as opposed to, say, most American universities where you would tailor the personal statement to each individual university or course. Some universities do allow separate additional statements if a course is very specific or niche. At King's, we have a liberal arts program that is still relatively niche and new in the UK, so students are allowed to write an additional personal statement if they don't feel that their UCAS personal statement actually fits that very niche course. And we do recognize that it is very difficult for students to write for 5 different courses one statement that suits them to the point where you would be able to get an offer. However, we would always advise at this point to choose 5 courses that are relatively similar in nature, whether it's the same course, say, the same English course in 5 different universities, or English literature in one and comparative literature in another, that are similar enough that one personal statement would actually fit those different course choices on the one application form. That example there at the bottom, I've always wanted to be a dentist, really and truly was on a law application form that I read. It just sounds silly when you get to applications as an admissions officer reading that. You know that the student's not really invested in the course. So that's the risk you run if you choose 5 very different courses, trying to make it all fit into one personal statement. So the personal statement, as I said, is kind of the crux of a UCAS UK application form. So generally we use it, we have an initial sift here in the admissions office just to see if a student has met the grades and the sort of profile we're looking for. And then we will look for things like the personal statement to go into more detail as to whether a student should be made an offer or not. For certain courses, it makes all the difference. It is completely how we make our judgment on whether a student will gain a place in the course or not. Some examples of that where we use it very much is in highly competitive programs. So a lot of our social science programs are very competitive. Law is very competitive. Things like professionally oriented courses, those would be medicine, dentistry, to a certain extent psychology or nutrition. Or we also look for those students with extenuating circumstances, maybe had difficult backgrounds, health-related issues. The personal statement can sometimes make mention of that and show us that you've overcome these extenuating circumstances. For anyone who is applying for, say, a professionally oriented course, usually our healthcare courses, at interviews, which are a requirement for healthcare courses, sometimes the personal statement can also be used as a basis for interview questions, to sort of a jumping off point about what you are like and what you've done and your interests academically. And finally, we can also use the personal statement at a process called confirmation. This is essentially after we've received the results in the UK, which come out the beginning of August. We will confirm those students who have met the grades, who have a conditional offer on a place at university on the basis of their results. And if there are 2 students who have the exact same grades and only 1 place in the course, we may look at the personal statement to see who really shows an enthusiasm and a deep interest for this subject over someone who maybe their personal statement is a little substandard. So the personal statement should obviously be written by you, the student. It sounds obvious, but you do sometimes receive personal statements that sound way, way off kilter from a 17-year-old trying to write a personal statement. Should obviously show a passion and understanding for the subject that you're applying for. Often if it shows wider reading or a deeper understanding of the subject, it makes it a really good personal statement. And almost obviously, we want to see someone with a good style, prose, and use of academic English. You're not speaking to your friends or your parents. You're speaking to academics in this case. So things to avoid, I think this is perhaps the more important bit, is try not to lie or over-egg. If you're going to be interviewed and this is the basis of your interview questions and you've said that you've read something and it turns out in the interview you haven't, you may be caught out. In fact, you probably will be caught out. Or even just lying to say that you've hiked Mount Everest. It's unreasonable unless you already have, in which case that's amazing. Also try not to be too smart or funny. Really, we want to see the genuine you. You're not going to get a prize for having the funniest personal statement. You'll make us laugh, and I'll appreciate that, but that may not always gain you a place in the course, and that's really what you're going after here. Also, don't just tick boxes. We don't want to see someone who's coming through and just saying, oh, yes, I have to mention the reading, and I have to mention this. It comes through in a personal statement if you're obviously just ticking boxes that you think a personal statement should have included. We want to see a genuine person. We want to see who you are as a student and what you think, not, oh, I think I should add in my work experience, therefore here it is, here's this line. And also tied to that, if you're just completing things in your extracurriculars or as part of your academic curriculum just for your personal statement, that probably doesn't mean you're going to enjoy the course. If you're just on the Model UN team because you think it will get you a place in the International Relations course, but you don't like Model UN, it's just not your thing. That's not why you want to study international relations. You don't have to do that just to say that you've done it in your personal statement. Or on the converse side, if you're doing Model UN and you really don't like it and that's what international relations is about, maybe that's not the course for you. So sometimes in the course of writing your personal statement, you come about with some discoveries. And we just want to make sure that personal statement really shows passion, enthusiasm for the course, and that everything that you're doing that you put into your personal statement really means that you're going to enjoy that course. In the UK, when you apply for a subject, you really study that one subject, or maybe two if it's joint honours, for a solid 3 years. You've got to be dedicated to it. You've got to really like it. Otherwise, you're probably not going to enjoy those next 3 years. So, academic versus non-academic. The biggest difference in a UK UCAS application personal statement and perhaps a North American university personal statement is we are looking in UK universities for a student to tell us why they like the subject they're applying to, not about themselves, it's about the subject. And to that end, your personal statement needs to largely be about the academic side of things. So it has to be about, we generally tell students roughly about 60 to 80% of it needs to be about why you want to study the subject that you've applied to, and it's all about the academics. Extracurriculars are great if you try and link them back to the academics. So again, we'll go back to that example of you're on the Model UN team or club at your school. That's great. It ties to international relations, and that's the subject you really like, and that's what you want to go for. So that's worthwhile linking that extracurricular activity back to the subject that you want to study. I mean, it's lovely that you also play the trumpet, but that doesn't necessarily add to the academic side of why you want to study international relations. If you're ever in doubt for the UCAS personal statement, we always advise students to talk about the academics rather than try to fit in other things that you've done or make it just sort of feel like it's tacked on at the end. It's really all about the subject here. So in terms of the content, what we're looking for generally across the UK in a personal statement is evidence and detail about your passion and enthusiasm for the subject. And to do this, what is the best course of action is really to show us, not to tell us. So instead of saying, I like this subject because, that's great, but you need to show me, not just tell me what you're doing. So show me that I really like this subject, and I've done this research, and I volunteered at this museum, and I wrote this thesis paper on this subject that ties back to the subject I'm applying for. So we want to see evidence. That makes it a really strong personal statement. When you're editing as well, we want to see some sentences that add value. So not just telling us, but showing us. So don't just say, I'm studying X, it's I'm studying X, and I've read these extra books outside the curriculum, and that ties back to, here we go. And when you're actually writing, one of our tips is to write the personal statement with double spaces, just so that you can sort of see it. And I suppose that this is the case with any sort of essay writing, where you write in double spaces so that you can see around what you've written and really allow it to breathe and allow it room so that when you cast your eye over it, everything becomes clear. So in terms of going above and beyond, and we did talk about adding in your extracurricular activities and tying them back to the academic subject that you are applying to, going above and beyond is fantastic. We do encourage it. So things like if you've attended summer schools, lectures, museum exhibitions, anything that's sort of academically related to the subject content, that's great as long as you tie it back to the subject you're applying to. Anything like reading that you've done around the subject outside of the curriculum particularly, that's great to see. So whether it's, I've read in The Economist this article and I want to talk about it, or here was my curriculum text, and then that spurred me on to read the rest of Charles Dickens's work or something like that. For those professional courses, things like medicine, dentistry, nursing, and somewhat law, we're looking for work experience as well, and that's above and beyond your general academic experience. And if you are going to talk about things that are sort of extracurricular, one way to sort of set yourself apart and really show an enthusiasm and passion for the subject is to focus on the out of the ordinary, if you have any experiences, to tie back into the academics. So if you were lucky enough to get a really exclusive, internship with a professor at a local university, that's fantastic, add it in. Or if you were lucky enough to go on a field trip that allowed you to go to a particular museum and that sparked your interest in something, and you can tie it back to the subject, definitely add that in too. So again, more about extracurricular activities. It is important, and we do like to see students who are going to be an active part of a university life, But we do want to keep that balance very careful in the personal statement. Remember, we're looking for like 60 to 80% of the personal statement on the actual academic subject. So extracurricular activities are great, and it's great to see that we're going to get a student, if we make you an offer, who also is going to bring a lot to the university life, but it needs to be within reason of the personal statement, because the purpose is to get you a place on the course, the academic course. So just bear that in mind if you're going to be adding in your extracurricular activities. Okay, next part, I have 3 examples here for you, 3 subject areas where I really wanted to talk about what very specific things we're looking for in a UK personal statement. So I've gotten 3 different subjects here. Talk about exactly, well, the main things that we're looking for in the personal statement, and then I also have a few examples to run through, and hopefully we can look at what is a really great personal statement and one that's perhaps not so great, to see the difference. So in terms of medicine, now our medicine and our healthcare courses here in the UK are an undergraduate degree, but because they are quite professional, they're long courses and have very specific requirements, the personal statement is used heavily, and you also have to attend an interview as well as take an aptitude test, which is called the UK CAT here at King's, to gain a place in the course. Highly competitive as well, as you may expect. So in terms of medicine, what they are looking for in the personal statement, again, passion and enthusiasm, but specifically demonstrating an insight into medicine as both a discipline and a profession. And this is where the work experience comes in for medicine. So things like some sort of medically related work experience, and more than that, really showing a deeper understanding what you have gained from that work experience about medicine as a discipline and profession. Some sort of commitment to work or volunteer work is also great to show in a personal statement. If it's also caring, or if you want to focus on the caring aspects of that work or volunteer work, that makes a better personal statement. Medicine and other healthcare related courses are looking for some sort of demonstration of skills, things like abilities to work in a team, oral communication, analytical skills. So if you have a particular example of what would be great is if you could tie those skills back into, say, your work experience or your volunteer work, to show how it all ties together for you. And also personal qualities. Now, some of this comes through from the interview, but things like empathy, a work ethic, integrity, all the things that you would think basically a good doctor or a good medical professional needs to have. They want to show all of this in the personal statement and in the interview, in fact. Okay, the next area I was going to talk about was business management. So this is more of a social science, but with a clear goal of business, I guess, professions at the end. So any sort of social science background type of course. Business management here at King's is a very competitive course. We have very specific needs within that. So it's very much a business and management course, and that's what we ask people to show in their personal statement. They actually need to mention the words business and management. And that's specifically here at King's because we don't focus on things like finance or accounting, which are different courses here in the UK. So we want students to mention business and management. And because this is a good grounding basic business type of course that really focuses on the management side of things, the personal statements we're looking for students to demonstrate an interest in the interdisciplinary nature of the program. So this program covers multiple different areas of the social sciences and business world, and we would want students to mention a few of those to show an understanding of what they're getting into, and also, if they could, relate what they've said in their personal statements to other fields of study to really show the true interdisciplinary nature of the program. In addition, we're looking for students in their personal statement to show an understanding of broader business functions. Again, this is sort of a good grounding and base degree in all sorts of different aspects of business and management. So things like relating business to political events or social or cultural functions of business. That would make a really strong personal statement. So to that end, I have a couple of examples here relating to business management. So in the first one, student says, I spent 3 weeks in a company that was about to create a new product, a candy called NA. I followed the process from the idea to the project to its conception and marketing, to launching a new product that became famous even in the context of the French economic crisis. That experience taught me that to rescue Europe's future, we have to emphasize innovation and competitiveness. I realize there are markets to develop and products to invent. It fits with Schumpeter's theory. The entrepreneur has to take risks, create, venture. I really feel that in pursuing a degree in business and management, I will gain the capacity to create or contribute to an innovative business. I look forward to mastering the tools needed to run a business and to learning how to manage it in a globalized economy where efficiency and productivity are vital. So obviously this is just a snapshot, a very small part of this student's longer personal statement. But in this, I would say this is a very strong business management personal statement. The reasons being, if we think back to those key points that we were looking for in a business management personal statement, they talk about business, which is great. That's one of the key things we're looking for. Where they specifically talk about a degree in business management, fantastic. They give a specific example about how they worked in a company, that's bonus, fantastic, and how they, within that work experience, they were involved in creating a new product. They talk about different aspects of the business world, you know, the process of creating something. They added in marketing. Most importantly to me, they showed that their experience taught them something, and they got something further out of the work experience other than just, I spent some time working in a company, hooray. It's not about that. It's about what it has taught the student and how they're going to use that in the future. What is particularly great about this personal statement is that they draw in this Schumpeter's theory. I don't know what Schumpeter's theory is, but I now have a better idea about it because they've tied it back to their work experience. It all tells a story. It flows together really nicely. And this is a great personal statement that shows that the student is thinking about business and management. They've gone above and beyond, done their work experience. They're tying in theories and putting it all together. They're really engaging with the subject. And I think not only would the student get something out of the business management course, but they would be able to give back quite a lot. So this is a great example of a personal statement for business management. So in the second example, the concepts of the economy and the market were introduced to me when I was young, as my father has always worked in an international bank in Spain. Because of this, I have always been interested in learning more about this branch of education. I got an A in my economics GCSE, but decided to take business and management as one of my IB subjects to be able to understand better the economy as a whole. Furthermore, I chose to study human resource management as my extended essay subject. My father has been my role model. I greatly admire his passion and work, and I am constantly trying to learn more about what he does and how he does it. This is one of the main reasons I want to study business and management. So in this personal statement, the student does mention business and management. That's one of the things we're looking for. That's great. However, they do a few things that we often see in our business management personal statements, and you can apply this to lots of different subjects as well. They tell us things that they've already put on their application form. They got an A in their economics GCSE, but I've already read that over here in their application form that says they have A in their GCSE form. So they've used valuable space in their personal statement to not tell me anything additional about themselves. Again, why they chose an IB subject. Again, that's something that we already have in their application form. This gives me nothing new about this student. They talk about the concepts of economy and market, how their father worked in a bank, and that they're interested in this branch of education, but I get nothing more than just they're interested in this branch of education. I don't know if they're interested in particular parts of it. I don't really see an engagement with that subject. They're not telling me anything more except I studied these subjects at GCSE and IB. My father is my role model. I don't see a student who's really passionate about the subject. I'm not getting that they are able to tie this in their personal statement. They're tying business management to anything outside of business and management, nor are they really looking at the interdisciplinary nature of the course. So for me, this is not a particularly strong personal statement, and this student would not receive an offer on a highly competitive course when we have 20 other students who probably show a bit more enthusiasm for the course here. So moving on, I thought I'd also try something in international politics, some examples here for the personal statement. So what we're looking for in international politics, somewhat similar, but a few more specific aspects that we expect students to cover. We want students to show an in-depth understanding of politics on an international level, as the name implies. Really want to show students who have a personal opinion on an example or subject area, maybe mention an extracurricular reading or link back to the subject specifically. We always advise students to do this, but we want a particular mention here. Demonstrate how those extracurricular activities relate back to the subject. Again, we always say that about that anyways. And maybe not focus on one particular area of the world. If you're only interested in politics of Europe, perhaps you should go to the European politics program, not the international politics program. So we want someone who's focusing on lots of different areas of the world, and it should not just focus on a student's personal life travels or experiences. It needs to be a bit more global than that. So a couple of examples here as well. First one, an extraordinary trip with my father originating in China showed me that different forms of government can be very effective and play a vital role in world politics. The communist regime can control media and the population, but it is still a superpower with exponential growth and development. Traveling from Beijing to Moscow on the Trans-Siberian Railway revealed different cultures, religion, and politics, and highlighted the difference between capitalism and communism. So in this first example, we have someone who's telling us about their personal travels, which is fantastic that they are lucky enough to go on these travels, but it doesn't tell me too much. It doesn't talk about the extracurricular activities, what they've drawn out about this. It says that they revealed different cultures, religions, and politics, highlighted the difference, but they don't go further than just stating those facts. It's an okay personal statement. It doesn't dig beyond the surface. It would be a better personal statement if they were to then talk about the different cultures, religions, politics, maybe linked in some extracurricular reading or something to just give you a little bit more information rather than just, I went on a travel, here's what I noticed, the end. So in the second example, history has provided an in-depth study of international politics. My historical investigation on the Cuban Missile Crisis examined the different steps the US could have taken. This increased my understanding of political and economic relations between nations. Again, it's quite a good opening statement, provided an in-depth study of international politics. You know that they are definitely interested in international politics. They've talked about what they've already studied. But there's nothing except this sort of top-level assessment. There's nothing further. I'm not getting a lot more information about how it increased their understanding of relations between nations, if they have any extracurricular activities they can bring in, if their historical investigation on the Cuban Missile Crisis linked to other things in different parts of the world, because we're focusing on an international politics personal statement. Again, not the world's best personal statement because it just feels very top level. You're not really digging deep into the subject, but it's not terrible. I'd really like to see a bit more information about what the student has drawn out of this particular historical investigation to really make it a great personal statement. And finally, I am particularly interested in the following three areas. Firstly, I am fascinated by the changing influences on government behavior. In the Arab Spring, we have seen popular uprisings grow and spread across geographical boundaries with breathtaking rapidity. We do not yet know what type of governments and political structures will emerge in these newly politically empowered national or how they will foster relations with each other and the rest of the world. I am interested in the answers to these questions and in how the West will adapt to deal with the new order. Secondly, I am intrigued by the impact of economic globalization. I have read Thomas L. Friedman's The World is Flat. It has given me a picture of the growing influence of nations like India and China, etc. So immediately you can see that this student has broken down, in fact, in three lovely areas that already tell you their different international focuses of their interests. They're bringing in extra reading, like Thomas Friedman's The World is Flat. You can see that there are parts of particular examples within what they've mentioned. So the Arab Spring, they're talking about very specific questions that they have and how they want to engage and find out more about their particular questions for this political event. Again, you can see that the student is thinking about it and bringing other things into what they have read and what they are hearing about in political examples here, which is the example. So what I see as an admissions officer is someone who is engaging with the subject, who's thinking about it in an international scale. There's lots of different interests here, and they are able to bring something already by saying they already have questions and interests that they would like to explore further. So they're going to get something out of the course, as well as probably engage very much with their fellow students and professors on the course to make it a better program for everyone, really. They're going to bring a lot to the table. So this is a really fantastic personal statement, one of the best I've read in a long time. So then a final note is just on the ending. Often the ending is the weakest link. People just sort of get through their bits and then the end. They don't know how to close it. So we do suggest that you read your personal statement backwards. Make sure that it holds your interest all the way through from end to beginning and vice versa. And that will probably help you formulate a better ending that finishes off the personal statement in the right way, the way you want to start it as well, nice and strong and with focus and enthusiasm. And finally, good luck. We wish you all the luck on writing your personal statement and making your UCAS application. If you do need to get in touch with us, we have a North American office here for King's College London. Their email address and phone number, their local phone number, are up on the screen. And of course, you can always check our online prospectus for up-to-date entry requirements and programs that we have to offer here at King's. Thank you very much.